Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga bummed me out, and here's why. Before we get started, let me give you a warm welcome to my channel, Curtis Reviews. Here on my channel, we focus on the feelings and emotions that movies can elicit from us. We may sometimes own in a little bit on what's good and what's bad in these movies, but ultimately, movies can be very personal and experiential, so we aim to capture that aspect here on our channel. If you're so inclined, please hit that subscribe button. We're still trying to hit our subscriber milestone of 300 subscribers. Every little bit helps, and we appreciate you so much. Now, let's get into it.
Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga is the prequel to 2015's Fury Road. I have fond memories of Fury Road, and it's tied closely to a pretty formative life event for me. I had no preconceived notions about the Mad Max franchise up until that point. Fury Road was a mind-blowing experience. It was visceral and emotional. The action was blistering, and the style off the charts. George Miller was in his early 70s making it too, and the energy is infectious, youthful, and hungry. Being 23 to 24 at the time of watching, it was the movie I needed at the right time. Plus, I went to Terrapin Festival the following weekend, and when I took some acid, the festival made me think I was on the wasteland. Badass.
You can gather that my hype for Furiosa was at an all-time high when I was preparing to go see it a couple weeks ago. My friend got us tickets to go see it in the IMAX, and other than seeing movies in the IMAX at the Science Center growing up, this was my first true blue IMAX experience in an actual movie theater. My friend and I were in good spirits, chatting through the opening trailers, to the chagrin of one particular person who seemed very dead set on watching the trailer for Wicked.
As the dunes appeared on screen, the viewer is immediately met with stark contrast from Fury Road. Green, far as the eye can see, lush and humid. Two young girls harvest peaches as some scavengers loot and kill a horse. Safety has been interceded upon, a grave misdeed at the hands of these scavengers. The young woman, our Furiosa, the protector of this land, goes to sabotage their vehicles and call for ambush. We've seen Fury Road and we know where this is going. At some point, something very bad is going to happen to Furiosa and her loved ones. And that, I'm realizing as I write and subsequently utter these words, is what doesn't work for this movie. The fun of Fury Road was the journey in uncovering the mystery of the wasteland. The costume design, action set pieces, and the colors alone with the cinematography. That's all here in Furiosa, but lacking the rawness the previous film had. And that may be unfair to launch at a movie that is its own thing and is quite different tonally than Fury Road. But much like we did with the Star Wars prequel trilogy, if you make it evident it's a prequel, we have to judge that based on the movie and the franchise it's connected to.
Now, in immediate contradiction to my last statement, this is also what makes Furiosa a pretty fun movie most of the time. The first hour is kind of a slow crawl, and I was just waiting for something to happen. Once they seamlessly transition us from the youth version of Furiosa into the Anya Taylor-Joy version, things get much more interesting. It's not that I didn't like the intro sequences. I think they're really well shot and exciting, but they're missing something. One of the best scenes happens soon after we're introduced to this version of Furiosa, with Tom Burke's Praetorian Jack. It's remarkable the kind of chemistry that he and Anya are able to craft together on screen with so few lines. They are bar none the best part of the movie, even if the later emotional beats with Dementis kind of fall flat. And that's the other thing, Dementis was such a cool idea for a villain. He's essentially an overblown gang leader who's either just criminally insane or just high as shit all the time. Chris Hemsworth is clearly having a blast playing him, but I don't know, I found him kind of boring and not really that intimidating. Hemsworth is great, but I wonder if maybe the material for Dementis wasn't fully fleshed out enough. And it has a lot to do with the pacing too. Dementis did many things in this movie that I felt should have impacted me more. I mean, he tortured and kept Furiosa as his slave for a large part of her childhood. And it might have something to do with earlier in the movie having him almost immediately run out of the Citadel by the overpowering might of Immortan Joe. He immediately lost a lot of credibility points to me, and it made me wonder, how did none of his cronies try to just leave and join Immortan Joe's army? It didn't really quite make sense to me. I'd even make the argument that if they removed this introduction to the Citadel and Immortan Joe and connecting them with Dementis and sort of doing the MCU connected universe thing and sort of let Dementis just run around on the outskirts with his cronies, I think that would have been a lot more exciting for me as a viewer. It's clear that George Miller admires the world and characters he's built here, but it feels sometimes like that's at the expense of the movie's overall story and pacing.
These movies, however, aren't necessarily about the story. Fury Road worked on a visceral level, but at its core it's a movie about how humanity, when pushed to the brink, tends to go low. Furiosa and Max in that movie took the high road, which was exciting in a world of such grotesquerie and villainy. We already know the world that Furiosa will enter, and to be honest, other than the bullet farm being an awesome backdrop for some of the best scenes in the movie, I didn't really care to learn more about it and the people who run it. Dementis, though, the more I think about him, is an apt villain for our time. When both the men who have been American presidents in the last decade seem to be hobbling towards chaos, discontent, and just seemingly unsuited for their job, Dementis' madness is akin to the kind of chaos that happened while Trump was in office. He's inept, and that may be why other people are compelled by him. He's kind of like Kefka in Final Fantasy VI, a hammy court jester who somehow gained far too much affluence and power, without truly being able to control that power at his disposal. Kefka, however, was far more organized. I'm looking more at the characterization, color palette, and overall hamminess of Dementis, rather than saying he and Kefka are exactly the same. So that leads me to another idea, which is the idea of evil. Furiosa is a revenge movie. Dementis and the other denizens of the wasteland, such as Joe's son Rictus, are Furiosa's push to get where she is and kill who she wants to kill. But what I found unbelievable at times is that Furiosa is implied to be a highly intelligent, skilled as a mechanic, driver, and fighter. How could someone like this still be kept down by the man? But maybe that's the point, that no matter what, women just have it harder in this world than men do. The implication of mother's milk and the way these disgusting males keep women as their sex slaves is indicative of this. It's gross and unsettling. But I don't like accepting that there wasn't a scene in here where Furiosa got true revenge on her captors until the credits rolled. That bothered me and it felt like hand-holding. Again, that might not be the point. The point of Furiosa may just be bang bang, pew pew, vroom vroom. Cool costumes, cool cars, cool names, funny names, badass Anya Taylor-Joy, and trucks armed to the brim with so much anti-Rock Rider weaponry, it'll make your head spin. For what it's worth, that pretty much covers the cost of admission. I tend to go into movies and leave them wanting more. Furiosa delivers on the concept, but feels undercooked in the ways that matter to me.
One huge glaring difference that I think impacts this movie more than all the other points that I've made, the score. The music does not match up with the emotional beats or the action set pieces that are on display here. I'm not well read enough on how the composition of a shot can capture all of the emotional beats in a script accurately, but for the audience, the music can often lead the viewer in the direction that the script wants you to go. That's not to say that composer Tom Holkenborg isn't a good composer and doesn't make good music, because the music in Fury Road is excellent. There was just some kind of disconnect here. And this kind of sums up the overall experience of Furiosa and Mad Max Saga. It has all of the things that Fury Road had before it, but it's missing that wow factor. It feels inevitable and even unnecessary to some degree. But I'm also glad that it exists. I love a good desert punk wasteland story. Sand is on brand for 2024 with this and Dune 2 having come out. But for someone who prefers to leave a movie theater affected and overwhelmed by the visuals and storytelling that I've watched, only bits and pieces of Furiosa did that for me. There is definitely more in this world for George Miller and co. to mine. And given other contemporaries like Martin Scorsese out there putting in great late game work, Miller definitely has some fuel left in the canister for future Mad Max entries. Don't get me wrong, I want more of these movies. My only concern is this what people want? Or even, do we need these movies?
There's a lot of sexist discourse online about Furiosa, and the weekend after seeing the movie, I was saddened to see the movie was considered a bomb. Probably in part due to the fact that the lead of Furiosa wasn't Mad Max. That's a bummer on multiple levels. I was even dismayed that our Friday night showing, which I haven't been to a Friday opening in over a decade probably, was relatively empty, and also, are IMAX theaters usually really hot? It was boiling in there. The reason this movie bombing is a bummer is that these kinds of things communicate the wrong discourse to the powers that be. We need movies like this to succeed, because even if they aren't perfect, where we spend our money matters. Even if I didn't love Furiosa, I still had a lot of fun watching it. And most importantly, not all movies need to be highfalutin, deep-meaning films. Furiosa is all surface level. Gas, money, guns, America. Humans are vile. There is no notion of goodness, only evil, only badassness. We get it. Furiosa has plenty of motive to destroy Dementis and ultimately Immortan Joe. This surface levelness is what bummed me out. If you're upset by a woman taking the spotlight and that's why you skipped this one, well, you were lost a long time ago. But I loved Anya the entire time she was on screen. Furiosa bummed me out because of what could have been. I can't even put my finger on what was missing. I think like when you're a little kid and you've seen that commercial for that one video game a million times and your dad finally gets it for you from KB Toys and it's not quite what you thought it would be, but you open the box and the smell is there, the ingredients are present, but there's a factor missing. There's a deadness to Furiosa and maybe that's part of it, but the emotional edge that Fury Road had is missing. I just wish I felt more of that raw George Miller power. So yeah, I was a little bummed, but it wasn't a total loss. Is it so wrong for me to hope for the best? Have you ever hoped for the best and been a little let down?
Furiosa isn't the face ripper that Mad Max Fury Road was. It could never have been, and holding it to that standard is unfair, if unavoidable in concept. That said, it is still worth your time and absolutely must be watched on a huge screen with great speakers. It is an event, and if you like vroom vroom trucks and boom boom guns, you are gonna love this. Long live Furiosa and Praetorian Jack, long live the Wasteland, and down with Immortan Joe for eternity. Until next time, this has been Curtis Reviews. We hope to see you again very soon, and before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're so inclined, and you should be, please leave a comment about your thoughts on Furiosa, and maybe recommend me some other good Wasteland movies that you know of. Those comments really do help us stay in the algorithm, and for that, we are forever grateful. Peace out, and stay dusted. We welcome you in Valhalla.
I'm Furiosa! The darkest of angels.